Hey everybody, welcome back to another exciting episode of The Stash Report from The Stash Project. Today is the 19th of March 2018, and decent week, I guess. Uh, of course, have the continuing daily watch of the Habago situation. We uploaded that little video, had a fun back and forth with a few people. Um, Not a lot to talk about with that right now. Today was, or no, excuse me, tomorrow, or actually Wednesday is the deadline for objections to the sale and objections to the process, basically, the rules. And then Friday will be the deadline for bids. So if you're going to buy Revell, Friday will be the day to do it. And then Monday we should get the auction results. Now, how much of what will be public should be interesting. Be following along. Thanks to a few people that were in that discussion on that smaller video that we did. We have access to the court documents now. Know the semi-ins and outs of what is going on financially with Habaco as a whole and Revell as an individual. And really got to say that Habaco is in a mess. Revell, not so much. Revell, basically, Revell's primary debt is to the people who do their tooling in China. If you were to take their unsecured debt, basically half of it is attached to that tooling over there, which makes sense. That's your biggest expense. Running a modeling company is having the tooling made. And then after that, the other half of their debt is pretty much split up between, the company that does all of their trucking in Hong Kong. We found out that, the dirty, filthy China that makes Revell's tooling is actually Hong Kong, which is pretty much where everybody gets their tooling done, including Meng and a lot of the Japanese producers as well, along with all of the IPMS things, all those Chinese companies that have popped up, Ryfield and all that stuff. That's all done in Hong Kong as well. So that's become a tooling hub these days. But the rest of their debt, like I said, is split up between salaries, employee benefits, and just a random assortment of things. They have legal counsel. They have all of the licensing that they pay for. Found out that basically the most expensive licensing that Revell has right now is the Disney licensing for the Star Wars and the Cars 3, Cars 4, whatever movie they're on, the Cars series. They're going to be doing some kits with that tie-in as well. And basically the Disney licensing is 10 times more expensive than anything else that they license. The next most expensive thing is GM, and then it goes down from there. I would say that right now they're barely eking out a profit for 2018 based on what their obligations versus their accounts receivable and cash on hand and things like that. Which is impressive considering what Revell has put out in 2018, which has been not a whole heck of a lot. Fortunately, the Bronco has sold very well. The Strope factory Bronco, obviously a lot of people were disappointed it wasn't a racing Bronco, but we knew that wasn't going to happen anyway. And the Jeep Honcho has sold extremely well in addition. So when it came down to the auction proceedings, basically you can buy all of Habaco. You can buy just the what they're calling the U.S. assets of Habaco, which effectively leaves out Revell of Germany. You could just buy the mass marketing side of Habaco, which is, Tower Hobbies, Great Plains, and that sort of things. You can buy the hobby business side of Habaco, which is, all of the RC stuff and all that. You buy Revell individually, you can buy Revell of Germany individually, or you can buy Estes individually. So it should be interesting to see exactly what comes out of the auction in terms of is somebody really going to pull the trigger and buy the whole kit and caboodle, or if everything is going to get piecemealed off. Really, the way Revell seems to be run financially, I almost think the most viable solution for them going forwards, other than Tom Lowe at Round 2 buying them and becoming the king of all models, other than obviously Pegasus owning Mobius now, would be finding something like a Pegasus Hobbies that has the cash to buy Revell outright, because you're going to need about $10 million to do that at least, or some other well-funded individual, somebody who can put a little bit of cash flow into it, not a lot, because Revell is very self-sustaining based on what their finances look like. but being a a large cog in a bigger wheel is clearly. I suppose it probably was very fortuitous when Habaco bought them at the time back in 2008. Habaco saved them to a certain extent from the situation that they were in, but it also wasn't necessarily completely and totally focused on making Revell, the thing. Habaco is a distribution company. It's an RC company. It's a this. It's a that. It's everything to everybody and nothing to everyone at the same time. And it left Revell to chug along and make profit and work its magic, so to speak. But it wasn't the focus of the company. I almost think that them being a standalone again or part of another smaller, more focused hobby company would be the best thing for them. They just don't need to be a part of a giant conglomerate. I mean, not that Habaco is this huge company, but it was the largest, one of, if not the largest, hobby companies out there in terms of just what all they did and their revenues and things like that. So we will keep an eye on it. I would say the biggest thing that concerned me looking into the finances was whether or not they were making a profit in the first place, and they appear to be. Uh, they're making pretty decent revenues for what is a niche industry, and it's they're not going to die unless someone buys them intentionally to kill them, or is just so piss poor managed that they kill them by accident. I really don't think you have anything to worry about there. It's just a matter of seeing who buys them. Really, I don't think it's a matter of somebody's going to buy them and that's it. It's gone. I'll never see it again. No, not an issue. It makes too much money to put it away. When you start looking at Habaco's finances, like I said, they're a wreck. Their ESOP is a wreck. Their debts are a wreck. It's not. You look at what's going on there. It's totally not a shock that they went bankrupt at all. I mean, they right now they owe Tamiya USA over $500,000 for inventory for them. Kits. Remember, it's not just car kits, but all the kits. Automotive, ships, planes, boats, or ships, planes, tanks, all the army stuff, all the IPMS stuff, all the tools, all the paints, all the spray paint lines, and then all of the Tamiya RC stuff. Tamiya USA, $500,000 alone, and that's not even their biggest debt. It's not even close to their biggest debt. Just somebody was asking me on a forum, how much do they owe this, how much do they owe that, in the certain terms of how much do they owe, like Mobius. They owe Mobius about $53,000 in inventory, basically, which is a lot of money to Mobius, but comparatively speaking, it's a little dunk in the bucket. They owe a lot of people a lot of money, and right now I don't think Mobius is necessarily as susceptible to the issues they were, because Mobius just got bought. So I'm sure the folks over Pegasus would like to have that $53,000 back, but it's not going to be, I don't think, as large a concern as it could have been, had it not just been purchased, if it makes sense. But yeah, so we'll see where that goes. This week there were no new kit announcements because it's just that time of the month. We did find out that the next carbon fiber decal set from Studio 27 is going to be for the Tamiya Sauber Mercedes-Benz C9. That is the Le Mans car that race it was second in 1988 and won in 1989, I believe. This will fit only the Tamiya kit, of course, because the Tamiya kit is full detail. There is the Sauber kits that Hasegawa made, but they're curbside. Theoretically speaking, some of it should fit in the sense of there's the same kit and the same scale. Although Hasegawa stuff has always been known to be smaller than 124 scale. Yeah. I think you really need to sit down two exact same kits together. It's one thing to say, well, this Subaru looks smaller than the other one. But if you sat down two identical things next to each other and see if they have the same size, I think the eyeball test on that. So that's now basically, 3 of the vintage, so to speak, Tamiya Le Mans cars, because at first they did the Toyota GT TS 020, and then they did the Mazda, and now they're doing they did the Jaguar XJR 9, and now we're doing the Sauber C9. So it'll be interesting to see if they do like the Nissan R89C or the R90V, or even the the 390 GT1, the other Nissan that was raced later in life in the 1990s. I remember writing to those guys 3 years ago, maybe, saying I wish they would do some more of the older Tamiya kits, because I really wanted a set of carbon fiber decals for the Porsche Carrera GT, which we ended up getting about 2 years ago. But they really took that ball and ran with it, at least with these vintage, because they've done the they did the Alfa Romeo 155s, they did the C class Mercedes. Now they're doing all of these older Group C race cars that Tamiya did. Pretty much all of them except for the Toyota are out of production. The Toyota is still in production. You can still buy that through any retailer, but you have to do a little digging to find the other ones, depending. Sometimes you can find them cheaper than others. It's just an odd sort of what day of the week it is kind of thing. Because sometimes those kits are really expensive, and sometimes they're dirt cheap. There's no real rhyme or reason the way eBay prices go sometimes. It seems like when they're cheap and you buy them, the next time you go look at them, they're really, really expensive. Like all the cheap ones go real quick, and then you're left with the overpriced ones, which is probably the truth in reality. So there's that. They're also going to be reissuing their not carbon fiber, but their photo etch set for the Sauber C9 as well. That's pretty much really the only things going on there. They're doing a couple of 1/20th scale multimedia F1 cars. It's kind of disappointing on my end because we're not getting any GT3 decals as of right now, at least so far for the month of March. We didn't get any last month and the month of February, obviously. There is one other photo etch set for the Nissan 240 Safari rally car for Hasegawa. I have not seen that photo etch set be reissued in a really long time. The other stuff is all pretty much sort of run-of-the-mill. They reissue their photo etch on a rolling basis, it seems like. So those are the only two that are pertinent, I guess. The Safari rally car did just get reissued, and like I said, I haven't seen that photo etch set be run out for a while. And obviously the Sauber C9 photo etch for the carbon fiber. They did the same thing last month with the carbon fiber for the Jaguar Le Mans car. They immediately reissued the photo etch set for it as well. Over SK Decals, we're doing a number of releases recently. They've done probably, I think it's 5 or 6 sets for the Ford Sierra, the old Tamiya Group A touring car. Now that's it's an interesting choice for Frankie to do, mainly because those kits are really hard to find at a reasonable price. You can find them all day long for exorbitant prices, but getting them at a reasonable price is a little more difficult. He did a nice split of things, some British touring cars, some 24 Hours of Spa, ETCC type stuff, as well as a couple of liveries for the Ghia Race of Macau in 1989, I want to say those cars are from. Also did a 1992 or 1993 BMW M3 for the Ghia Race of Macau as well, when the divisions split and the local guys, if you will, the people from Hong Kong and in various other parts of Asia, were still running the old DTM cars. This month, they've released again a couple more Ford Sierra things for British touring, which I'm not going to show you here because, again, if you're interested, go to SK Decal on Facebook, and you can order directly from him through Facebook. But more pertinent, because these are kits that you can get a hold of and they're not impossible to find. He's done one set of decals for the 2017 Macau FIA GT championship race, and that is the Green Hell Mango car, the Mercedes-Benz Touring Academy, or Driving Academy. The number 1 car is the race winner. The number 2 car was the team car. I can't remember where they finished. I'd have to look it up. But that's one sheet. You pick your poison there with the with car you're building, 1 or 2. They're doing a sheet for the B-Max Volvo, and that either gives you the European Touring Car Championship RAS Sports, the Nordica livery. A lot of decal companies were planning to do this, and Frankie beat them all out. So there's that. Also, as an option for the Nordica sheet, you get the Volvo dealer team car that ran and was the winner of the Australian Touring Car Championship. So this is the Australian Touring Car Championship champion car. So that's a neat little subset. Basically, you're using that same sort of hockey stick, side livery with a little bit of different wording. So that's a neat option. One of the sets of decals that I will say, had a hand in the development of, basically because by just being a whiny brat and demanding that it be done, and supplying photos and demanding it be done some more, is the 2016 Fiat GT Macau car for the RAW Motorsports team. Now this is a very small set of decals, as you see. Basically, all of the main component decals are included with the Hobby new BMW M6 GT3 car. You just need that little sheet of decals to change out the driver, add a couple of associate sponsorship liveries, and then change all of the number placards over to the Macau GT race. So it's a fun little conversion if you're into your Gia race of Macau or World Cup Macau, as it has become in the past, I think it's probably the last 10 years it's been underneath this banner. It's the last race of the Fiat GT World Cup. So again, that's a pretty inexpensive set of decals. I think it's like $8 or something like that to convert it over. And then these will be the next set of AMG decals that are coming out. These are, of course, 2017 liveries. The two AMG Driving Academy cars, the 48 and the 50, and then the Group M Racing car, which was fielded by one of the Blancpain Asia GT teams. So that will, of course, not be all of them. There are more coming after this. From what talking to him, he wants to do all of the AMG GTs that ran this past year, which is kind of fun and yet an oddity because, of course, the cluster that was the practice and half the cars got wrecked out and everything else like that. But you get the winning car here along with a couple of other options. I don't know if this is gonna be 3 separate sheets of decals or 1 sheet of decals with a bunch of little options. My guess would be the second. Basically, in order to make all 3 cars, you have to order 3 sheets of decals. But it's sort of 6 of one, half dozen the other, because of course you'd have to order 3 sheets of decals if there were individually, individual decal sheets. But more than likely, because the only differences will be stripe colors and then numbers and a few things here. Big thing there. Group M Racing being the big difference between the 3 of them. I said maybe we'll see it all on 1 sheet, or maybe it'll be the top 2 on 1 sheet and the second on the bottom sheet. It all depends on how he feels like breaking things up in his doing the drawings on them. So that is for guys who are into the GT3, what the scenario is there. Even if Studio 27 isn't producing decals, decals are still being made. Perhaps not for the race series or the liveries you want, but they're still being done. I know that Scale Liveries, which is a new company out of Hong Kong, they've got a few non-Macau things coming out shortly. One is going to be a sheet for, I want to say it's a, I can't think what the car is for. It's not a Nuremberg car, but it's I think it's a 24-hour Spa car for this past season, as well as one of the Nuremberg AMGs from this past season as well. So we'll talk more about those when those decal sheets get closer to being done. No kits, so let's just go into kit releases. We have 2 domestic reissues, and then everything else is pretty much a reissue, although there's one modified reissue in here. So on the domestic side of things, we got the round 2 kits out for this month, and they are the AMT 1969 Oldsmobile 442 W30 reissue of the venerable 1988 tooling of this kit that was done, like I said, right before MPC was swallowed up by AMT Erdl. They're saying modern tooling. I think that's stretching it a little bit. It's not as modern as some of the other AMT Erdl kits they've reissued, but still, it's not 1969 tooling, despite the vintage box art crap that's going on. You get the pad-printed tires and slicks. I don't know why they're slicks. There's no drag option to this kit, but they are the latest set of Firestone wide ovals. The first set came in the reissue of the 66 Fairlane last month, so this will be the second version of those tires. New decal sheet. It's much more gooder, expanded. Several different stripe color options rather than just being one color like they were in the original kits. And then you get the vintage packaging. Whatever. I mean, I get that they're selling a lot of these kits on box art alone, but at the same time, I know what this is. Putting it in a fancy box isn't going to make it any better. And then over at MPC, they've reissued the 1986 Chevrolet El Camino SS. This, of course, the El Camino that everyone loves to hate because it has the Monte Carlo SS front end on it. And a lot of people seem to really, really, really want the old Malibu front end back, but for better or for worse, this is what you get. It does include the little bonus trail bike, with a little Honda trail bike there. It doesn't have any kind of branding tied into it, probably because that would have cost money to license the bike specifically. It does have a brand new decal sheet that specifically replicates the box art paint job of it being blue and silver. Basically, the silver is decals, the blue you'll have to paint on your own. They said it's a very famous Chattanooga Choo Choo customs paint scheme. But again, I've only ever seen like 2 of them. Just even Google imaging for these things. I can only find like 2 or 3 pictures of these things in that color scheme new. You can find a lot more white ones, the way the original box art was done. But be that as it may, it's certainly a different option for it. And I know from just reading various forums, a lot of people will buy this thing just because it has the trail bike in it, even though they probably already have 3 of these El Caminos anyway. I would buy this El Camino not because it has a trail bike in it, but because I built one back in 1988 or so, whenever they converted this over, because it's an older MPC tooling from the early 1980s, that they then went back and retooled in to make the Monte Carlo front end and make it the El Camino SS that Chattanooga Choo Choo did. Built one a long time ago. I did not buy a new one of those back when they started running them off again when Round 2 took over the tooling. So, I don't know. It's one of those things that I'm just vaguely enough interested in to consider, but probably never going to actually buy one. So there's that. That takes us overseas. Aoshima did a lot of reissue work this week of this month. First up, you have 3 pre-paints. These are actually last month's pre-paints, but they just come in. First up, you have the Initial D 86 Truno, which makes the original comic book version. This is a black and white pre-paint Panda car. Basically, all the black on the body is painted for you, as well as all the window surrounds and the whole rest of the model kit. We've talked about this 1,000 times, so we'll say it one more time. Pre-painted model kits from Aoshima are pre-painted from top to bottom. It is not just the body, it is the entire model kit. As the caveat always goes, that means they painted over all the seams and all the mold lines, and everything is still in the parts runners, so cleanup is required. But for a quick weekend build, there's always the option of those kits. They also reissued their Mitsubishi Lancer Evolution 10 final editions in the metallic red and the metallic black. Again, nothing new there. Just pre-paint, just reissues the pre-paints. Also, while they were at it, they reissued the non-pre-painted version of the kit as well. Apparently, they've gotten pretty good travel out of this. It was supposed to be a special edition, and they've reissued it twice since it came out. So, I don't think it's even the only Evo 10 that's out commercially, like in the catalog right now, but they've certainly been selling the pants off of it. And then the other reissue, also of an Evo 10, is the Sea West Racing version. So if you wanted a tuner version of the Evo, you can go get it this way as well. Also, while we're on the reissues over at Aoshima, they reissued the Nissan Leopard Ultima. This, of course, is a kit that was just put into the model car lineup not that long ago, maybe 3 months ago. It's being reissued because it's sold out. And then you have the reissue again of the Brian James A4 Transporter trailer, which is probably the 4th or 5th reissue that thing has had since it came out. That has really done well for Aoshima in those terms. So if you haven't picked one up yet, and because it's always been out of stock, here's another chance to quickly go grab one before they sell back out again. And then the last kit we're going to talk about in this video is the modified reissue, and that is the Hasegawa 1969 Monte Carlo Rally BMW 2002 Ti. So one thing you notice right up front, sorry guys, I'm a little running ragged here, is the fact that it's a TI and not a TII, which was the first of the civilian cars that were done. So this gives you the option to build, even if you didn't want to build a rally car out of this, because all the parts are in there to build a civilian car, you could build a 69 Ti. So there's an option there if you're not necessarily wanting to build the rally car. The rally car parts that are in here that are new, you have a new set of wheels. It may be a new set of tires as well, but I can't really compare the tires from the street car to the tires to this thing because I don't have this one on hand. But it definitely is new wheels, new steel wheels. Obviously, you get the big lights on the front. There's a racing seat. The driver gets a racing seat. The passenger is stuck with a factory 2002 seat. So if you're the navigator, you're hanging on for dear life. There's also a roll cage in here, mud flaps. There are little plastic engraved hood latches, which you may have saw in the box art, which are up on the front edge of the back edge of the front fenders, because of course a 2002 has a clamshell hood like a Corvette does. There's also one of those for the back trunk to hold the trunk shut. There's a like an extra brake light on the back bumper. There are also skid plates for the engine and the transact, or it would be the rear end, the differential in the back. Just little bits and pieces there. Overall, I think it's a good value. You get both of the steering wheels from. Oh, actually, there's 3 steering wheels in this kit. Both of the original steering wheels plus the rally steering wheel. You get all 3 sets of wheels: the 2002 Tii, the BMW Turbo wheels, and then these steel wheels as well. And like I said, there are specific scripting for the 2000 Ti. So if you don't want to build the rally car, the parts are in there for the civilian car to build a very early, non-turbocharged version of the 2002. So it's pretty cool offering there. Even if you even if you were going to go pass on the 2002 Monte Carlo version of the rally thing, there's a civilian kit lurking underneath there as well. So that's always an option for you. So anyway, guys, that wraps it up for this week. Hope you enjoyed it, and we will be back, of course, next week with more fun and excitement, as a good chunk of the March stuff has not come out. Fujimi stuff isn't out yet. Obviously, Aoshima stuff isn't out yet. So there's still a good chunk of stuff from overseas to go. See what the second half of the month for Studio 27 holds in terms of decals. And also, if you stayed onto this video this long and you happen to be in the Pittsburgh area this coming weekend, like the 24th and the 25th, there are 2 model shows coming up out here. Saturday the 24th will be the Tricon IPMS show, which usually brings a pretty good automotive attendance because it is the first local show around these parts. So you usually get people from all of the local guys, plus guys coming down from Cleveland and various other places in Ohio. And then the next day on Sunday is my club's show, the South Hills Modeling Association. Our show will be back at the Castle Shannon Volunteer Fire Department after we didn't have a show last year because the Castle Shannon Volunteer Fire Department was being renovated and we couldn't find a place at the last minute. Pretty much your normal hours, 9 to 3, 9 to 4 on both of them, I think. If you haven't been in the area, stop on up. I'll be emceeing, so to speak. We don't have music, but I'll be running the PA system at our show. Probably be at the IPMS show. I have to work the night before. Really depends on how tired I am when I get home. We've been running ragged or not at work lately. They called us off tonight because it's the weather. So it all depends on what day of the week it is. But anyway, see you guys.